All right, want to do a quick video here on Roku. So Roku had its earnings come out Thursday after market hours. Showed positive signs. Increased new users, and they expect that new users are going to grow moving forward. So there was a lot of positive aspects. Some analysts kept their hold rating. Some analysts bumped the price of Roku up. Nonetheless, we opened around $150 a share, and if you look at the charts, currently have the 1 year daily chart up, so each candlestick represents a day. But you can see that we have multiple days right around that 150 mark acting as a resistance, and as well as a support, but not as many days. But I did want to point that out because we opened right there, right at that resistance. So my guess is there was a lot of sell orders already in place, maybe right below 150 or right around that mark. And that kind of started off the selling for the day, and then we just trended down for the remainder of the day. And honestly, it was not very strong to me. Like the fact that we saw this nice little push up from the day prior. Let me see if I can get it on the 15-minute here. Nice little push up from the day prior, just to have it sell off as the market opened. So here was our little push, right? And then we continued higher into the early pre-market hours, and then we started to sell off as we cracked through 150. You can see we tried to hold right around these low 140s. And again, the fact that we were trading around that level in the couple days prior, and that we made such a weak attempt to bounce right there was not a very good sign. And you can see that it kind of followed through, made lows down here in the 127s before seeing a small rebound, but yet, it really wasn't that big of a rebound when you compare it to, the fact that it dipped 14% from the high. Again, it gapped up, so, we were only down 6% on the day, but the lows were down there, 14% below what we opened at. So, the fact that we didn't see this squeeze back to the upside, we saw a couple percent, 2 or 3% to the upside, but then it fizzled back out as the day closed. So that wasn't necessarily a sign of strength. Now, when we look at the weekly chart, though, I do want to point out that we have this upward trend, right? And this is dating back to the lows that we saw back here in late 2018. You can see we had a little bit of a bounce on it right here. And again, a little bounce after that big old rip that we had up here to almost $180 a share. And then, we almost had this double top, and now we have been trending back down. You can see we now have 2-3 weeks that we have been right below it here on the weekly chart, and it's right around that 50-day moving average. But when we dig in a little bit closer, you can see it looks like we have an inverted hammer. So that would have been a good sign to buy last week, and then now again we have another inverted hammer again. If we would have closed, say, up here around 140, that would have been a nice sign that we are going to continue this move up. Nonetheless, we're looking here at the PPO. It looks as if we're starting to flatten out down here, might be starting to curl back up. We are still sitting on the 50-day moving average on the weekly, so that could be a sign of good support. And we are trading just above this 9-day moving average on the weekly. So maybe, not any one thing is going to make or break your trade as far as your technical analysis, but it could be, that we're to the point where this upward trend is no longer really valid. And now these could be back tests that continue to fail, and then we may dip down lower. If that's the case, I'd be looking around 120 as a support, and then down here around 110. And those are easier to see here on the 4-hour chart. But my opinion right now is that this could be one that, as we move into Monday and Tuesday, sees a nice little rebound. You can see these moving averages on the 4-hour chart. We're starting to cross over when we had that nice little move to the upside at the late part of this week, up here around 140 and then up around 150. But it is curious that we saw no support right in here around 140, and then we pushed lower and then closed kind of on a slow note, and we didn't see a whole lot of buyers step in. So a little mixed feelings either way, it seems. But we're sitting right around 130. And if we were to dip to the low side, I wouldn't want to see us make a lower low from this downward trend that we saw right here. So this is kind of what I'm looking at. we had this little downward trend where we would pop and pop and pop, and then we set our low down here around 120. So if we were to break through these more substantial, like sporadic lows down here around 125, 124, I think that would definitely signal that this is going to start to reverse to the downside, and then we could be seeing 120 or even 110. So that is just something to keep in mind. But if we do move back to the high side, I would be looking up here around this 140 mark. So that's going to be up about 7.5%, and then 150 is an obvious resistance now that we have seen. And that's about 15.5% away. So I think it'll take some time before we can gather some stamina and consolidate and push to that level. But those are potentials as we move forward to keep in mind if this thing does start to pop. You can see it just took a few days here for us to move from 125 up here to 140. So it is good to keep those more far out. Whether it be a support or a resistance level in the back of your mind. Nonetheless, Roku, I'll be paying attention to it as we move into next week. If we do get down here around 125, I might put on a trade just to see if we back test this downward trend. Not that it's super valid, but you can see when we did break through it, we did see a nice push to the upside. So if we were necessarily back test it and then pop back up, that could be a nice little gain for a quick trade. It wouldn't necessarily be a long hold unless I saw something else start to form. So thank you guys for watching this video. I wish you the best if you are trading this stock or any stock that you're trading, but just make sure that you do your own due diligence before you jump into a trade. Set up what your plan is, where you're going to get in, where's your stop loss, where's your take profit, or take profit levels if you're going to phase out of the trade. And same thing if it starts to go down, if you want to thin your position as you go. But either way, I hope that you guys do your best when you're trading. So thank you guys for watching. I hope that you learned something from this video.